So let's create a new project. My natural way of exiting here is to basically say window, close all documents, and build clean solution, just to be sure when I come back, all I see is this blank screen. If there's any, if all business in that application is finished, I really don't want to maintain any open windows, because usually in those fancy graphical environments for developers, you can come back and it'll reopen on all open files for you. So instead, I'm just going to say new project, and again, it's going to be a very similar project. We're going to start with empty project. We're going to give this project a name. This is going to be what, week 11 pet license, something like that. And basically create this project, make sure that it's an empty project, and it's a very simple way of starting things off. View source files. Of course, we're going to go to source files and add a new item, and of course we need to create the main implementation file, which will contain our main function. Okay, and as before, we're going to add source at the end of this path, just to keep the oh, I think I somehow messed it up. Projects, week, license. Let me check what I just did. So I'll do this over again and say add new item. So this time I corrected it, and this is going to be source, and under source it's going to be main.cpp, and say add, right? So this is an empty file, and I really don't care about this file. We'll just do some minimal minimum stuff in here, right? So this is one include, the second include, right? And we're going to do just a minimal version of main, and then say okay, good, return 0. Okay, this is good. Okay, obviously, because this is not a toy program, this is just basically a larger scope program, I am going to right away add another source file, which I will just go to my source files, and I will add another new item, another new implementation file, where I will just keep implementation of my stuff that I will be programming, right? So this will be maybe I can name this pet license, something like that, pet license dot cpp. This will be code specific to this application, so just add this pet license. It's very likely that I'm also going to, instead of coding everything in this implementation file, that I'm going to include a header file named petlicense.h, the header file, right? So I will also have a header file where I will be declaring things, and in this file I will be implementing things. Possibly, I also need it here as well, right? So I'm just, my starting point that main will include the pet license, petlicense.cpp, the implementation file will include this header file, and finally, of course, I mean, I don't have this file, but if I jump to pet license source, right, this is where my main and pet license CPP files are. I can then just right click and say new text document, and make sure you display the extensions. Of course, I'm going to rename it to be petlicense.h and say yes, sure, I want to rename it, and then you can just basically drag and drop over here. It's an empty file, of course, right? Save everything, Shift Control S in most environments. And then and because this is a header file, I no longer need to see this right now. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to create the header guard, which is if not defined, with the pound sign, of course. If not defined, pet license included, pet license underscore H underscore included. Your version can be a little shorter. I prefer these longer names for my header guards. Then define this thing, and eventually you can say and if, right? And standard practice is to just maybe keep the name of the header guard. So now between those header guards I can type stuff, right? And the stuff that we were talking about is this, the two classes. So let me try declaring them in this file so I can switch over immediately to programming. All I have to say class pet owner, and this pet owner thing will be in Java. Of course, you don't use the semicolon. C++ requires a semicolon at the end of class declaration like this, and I usually place a marker like that at the end of my class. And we decided that we would like to have a string. I will use full name right now, std string, standard string, name, right? I really don't have to use uppercase, which I did in the design, but I will have the name of the owner, right? Then we decided to have an age, maybe it's an integer, just for the sake of simplicity, and standard string address, right? So we store. So these are the three data members of any instance of class pet owner which the program will be creating at runtime. So anytime I need to manipulate the pet owner, I will have to create an instance of this class. And to begin with, right now, I'm just thinking about this, the possibility of having something like that. And of course, the next thing is that I can say class pet, right? And that's all going to be very similar business. Class pet right there. And of course, it's going to also have std string name. So we want to capture the name. What else did we say on that thing? The name type. I actually missed name on this list. It obviously the pets also have names, so we need to have a name so that we at least remember name. Then for the type, I can just use a character, right? So I can say C for a cat and D for a dog, maybe just for the sake of difference. The type is just a single character. Okay. Then we also mentioned age color, right? So let's do that. Let's do an integer age. Then we can do perhaps another string, std string color. Okay, and then what else? Color, tag number, adoption. Oh, let's just we can add tags later on. We really, you see, for me, it would be too premature to run into the tag business because the tag number can be only after we deal with licensing. So I don't even have discussed the license class yet and haven't thought about it. So I just ignore the tag for now, right? Which is just a unique number identifying a pet. But however, I will create a Boolean adoption, right? So we're going to say, is this an adoption? Yes, no. And they will say, if yes, we're going to say true, it's adoption. If not, we're going to say no, it's not an adoption. And this is what pet class will have. Okay, so So we can have that. What else do we need? And then, of course, we want to associate the pet owner with the pet. So whatever appears here, right? Anything that appears here on this diagram, which we were thinking about some ideas here, whatever appears like this, obviously, and we said that per one pet owner, we can have many, and that's usually drawn as an asterisk on the diagram, right? Like one-to-many type of relationship between the pet owner and the pet. Well, guess what? In real application, all that is STD vector, right? Vector of who? A vector of pets, right? So we should be able to create a vector of pets and store it in the pet owner class. Why not, right? So simply say pets, right? And if we create a pet owner class, there is a vector of pets inside. We can later on, so we can start with an empty vector, but later on we can add pets to that pet owner class. All right, so this is a starting point where I'm thinking I need to be moving with this beginning design. Any questions?